Bing bong. Alright, Merts. Welcome to the CineMerts podcast with Max Colson and Levi Johnson. We're a couple of guys who like films, and everyone's in them. Terrible. That's the absolute worst one.
Can you dig it?
Yeah, today we watched The Warriors, and I'm pretty fucking hyped because it's joint favourite movie for me, at the very least. I can never decide whether it's this or Roadhouse. So they're just my joint favourite movie.
Yeah, like, I'm going to have to rewrite, like, a top 10 of my favourite movies because I don't know. It's too hard, man. It's too hard. Kung Fu Hustle, I forgot about that movie, man. So it's shaken up everything. Everything is displaced.
A similar thing happened to me with Assault on Precinct 13, because I didn't watch that movie for so long, and then I rewatched it and I was like, oh shit, this fucks up all my top movies list, because this is high up there. Right, so The Warriors, very simple storyline, so I'll get through that now.
Do you want to make the director happy first, or...?
We'll discuss that in a bit.
Okay.
So basically, it's a bunch of gangs in New York in tail end of the 70s. They all gather in Central Park, I want to say.
I think so.
I
don't know American.
Yeah, I've never been to New York.
Yeah.
To attend a meeting led by a guy called Cyrus, who his goal is to unite all the gangs, basically. And it seems to go over pretty well. He has 9 delegates from every gang that come unarmed.
Yeah.
And they're just there to hear him out. And it's basically, you know, there are more of us. Once we put our numbers together, there are a lot more of us than there are of the police. And it all seems to go really, really well until this one guy from a gang called the Rogues pulls a gun on Cyrus and shoots him right then and there in the crowd. In the sort of the chaos, the guy who shot Cyrus blames it on the Warriors because, well, one of the Warriors saw him, basically.
Yeah.
So he immediately switches, kind of puts the blame on them. And as a result, the Warriors, who are based in Coney Island, have to get from the middle of New York all the way back home, while being chased down by not only the cops but every single one of the gangs.
Yep.
And that's basically it. That's the story that may or may not be really clever if you watch the director's cut.
Yes. The movie is in reference to a specific Greek tragedy.
Yeah.
Would it be tragedy? No, it's not tragedy.
Greek epic.
It's Greek epic, yeah.
Yeah, which, you know, didn't necessarily need to be explicitly mentioned, but, you know, we watched the theatrical cut, so it wasn't. So yeah, that's the basic rundown for the movie. And honestly, this isn't one of those cases where it's like deceptively simple. No, the story really is that simple.
Yeah, yeah. Unless you read into it more like we do. Yeah.
But I think what's great, and this is something that I really like in general, is films that have a simple premise but use it to the absolute maximum potential.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I mentioned Assault on Precinct 13. That's another movie that does exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my favourite movies do that. It takes something very straightforward and just really delivers.
Yeah.
Through a really cohesive kind of aesthetic and tone that goes from everything to everything from the kind of just the sort of squalor of New York in the 70s, through to the kind of crazy themed gangs and the music and everything.
Like one thing that I was genuinely really salty about, because when I was a kid, I had it in my mind somehow that no, this is just how gangs work. Like, no, yeah, like there's like a gang that's the Baseball Furies, you know. Like, you gotta, if you want to start a gang, you've got to look around and do your research, see what everyone's themes are, and then, pick one so that you can be a distinct gang and have your own branding, get your own, like, jackets and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe print your own labels on there. Get specific tags that you... tags are actually a real thing, to be fair.
Well, yeah, it is.
But,
I mean, so were labels in the 70s. Having, like, back patches and things like that. And you still see that with biker gangs.
Like, and colours and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But,
and, I mean, biker gangs still have, full-on patches with, the names of them, written on and stuff like that.
Where's the rollerblading gangs?
Where's the rollerblading gangs? Yeah, where's the sort of multiracial, possibly gay skinhead gang that go around in a big bus?
Yeah, I am still annoyed that, while going through, like, the local streets, sometimes I'm not accosted by the local prostitute gang that would need to obligatorily be put into any, like, male-written, like, gang story. They won't exist. Let's be real. Like, come on, what was it? I'm playing Cyberpunk 2077, and there's a gang called the Mocks, who are just all... either they're prostitutes or ex-prostitutes. Like, it's a prostitute gang. Sin City's got a prostitute gang. Everywhere fucking does it. Like, if it's got a male writer, it's like, well, all these women got together, they're all prostitutes, and now they're fighting.
Weirdly, though, except this movie.
The Lizzies, man.
The Lizzies aren't really prostitutes, though. That's not... I always just... They use sexuality to get what they want in the context of the Warriors.
I feel it... I don't know. For me, I feel it's implied. But maybe you're right.
I don't know, because I get so much, like, just lesbian coding from them. Because they're coded like militant lesbians almost. Like...
Yeah, maybe.
There's that... It's like...
Feminist scare.
Yeah... Yeah, that to be honest, that's sort of what it feels like. It almost... I get the same vibe as I get from, like, the Jack Hill and Pam Grier films whenever they have, like... Because every single one of those movies has at least one lesbian couple. Or, in the case of...
Yeah, I guess, because...
In the case of Foxy Brown, a full-on lesbian bar with a bar fight, which is awesome. But it's the same kind of coding where it's, like, strong women, lesbians...
Yeah.
It is what it is. It was made in the 70s. To be honest, I think this film does handle that element better than a lot of other stuff from its time.
Yeah, like, I was surprised, like, when watching it back. Like, I guess there's a little bit of homophobia in there.
Yeah, although... Like, only really from one character.
Yeah.
And that character is kind of the douche of the group.
Yeah.
And... It's also, I mean, that's really funny anyway, that whole thing, because Ajax, his name is, he's the kind of, I guess, the tough guy of the group, or at least that's how he considers himself. And he uses the word faggot a lot. And what I find really entertaining about it is he only really I think he exclusively uses it while talking to and about the Warriors.
Yeah.
Like, he only uses it with his friends, basically. But when he really wants an insult that's going to sting, that's going to punch below the waist, he uses the word wimps.
like, look at those wimps. Like, it's so ridiculous.
Even when the police have beat him up, and he, like, looks up, and he's just, like, through gritted teeth, it's like, fucking wimps.
if you can have sex in the butt, you're a pretty tough son of a bitch. But, what do? You don't even lift. Bloody wimps.
Yeah, there is that element of it. But like I say, overall, I'd say for a movie made even in the tail end of the 70s,
like,
it's, I mean, let's put it this way, that there is not a single successful rape in the entire movie. And considering... how many movies made from around that era just use rape as a way to get nudity into a movie.
Yeah.
There's none of that. There's sort of... Ajax kind of... it's hard to even call it rape exactly. It's more like he just goes way too hard with, like... with groping the undercover policewoman, because she totally does give consent, and then he just, like, starts...
you were like, oh man, this is entrapment. But I was like, to be fair, how she's been, I don't think she would have like a claim if to be like, hey, this guy's a night rapist because I've come on to him. I was like, I think maybe she was actually like, you know what? I'll definitely have sex with this guy. And then he was just like, I'm gonna blow it, lady. And then like started just trying to rough her up for no reason. Like, even though she'd given him a pass to like make a move.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? He's like, I like it rough. You're like, what? Like, you obviously like not having sex, you idiot. Like,
yeah. I mean, I think maybe that some of that can be explained away by just simply the fact that the movie doesn't always sell it too well, but these are supposed to be really young guys. They're supposed to be in their teens.
Yeah, like teens, early 20s. Like, yeah, they're like gang guys, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that. I mean, I'm pretty sure. I don't know much about the book, but I'm pretty sure in the book they're supposed to be like young teens. I think they're supposed to all be like about 13 and 14. And I think in a way the movie did pick up some of that in that in certain scenes they seem to be coded to be that young, even though they're clearly not. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't know.
Oh, what you mean? Like the reason that Rembrandt is one guy with like a big afro. He's for some reason scared of hooking up with the Lizzies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whereas everyone else is like, hey, yeah, man, let's get with these girls. Maybe.
Yeah, well, like, I mentioned this while we were watching it, but like, when I watched this with a friend a little while back, and she said that she absolutely read him as being gay, which you totally could read it that way. I don't know if that's intentional.
I kind of thought it, but then was like, nah, like with like the casual homophobia from like Ajax, like I'm assuming that they're saying that other people aren't really cool with that, so they'll probably have kicked him out of the gang. But then, like you're saying, he only ever really uses it when talking to those guys, so maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because I didn't really register it too much. It was only like when she brought it up. I think it probably is more likely that the intent was the kind of more the virgin thing that he's. Because I think he is supposed to be younger than the rest of them anyway.
Yeah.
Again, it doesn't really sell it too well because they're all clearly in their 20s. But
well, it's probably just het brain where I'm just there like, you know, Zap branding it up and what are you, gay? like you don't want to have snoo with these fine Amazonians.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably why just because like, you know, being dude, I was like, man, I was like, yeah, he's probably actually just a virgin, but no, yeah, like I really do like this movie. It's pretty cool. I think there's some interesting like editing designs because obviously it's coming from a larger like come from a book. It's like an adaptation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what was lost or added in there. I've seen some things like some characters seem to be different. So it seems like it's a loose interpretation, mainly about events rather than specific like characters.
Yeah, I think it's more just that the overall premise is the same and there's a few bits lifted. I've heard that you've played the video game and I've heard that the game lifts more elements from the book, so there are certain moments in the game that are taken from the book rather than the film, although by the same token a lot of like the gangs and things just aren't present in the book. It weaves
pretty snugly with the film. Like the last section of the game is essentially just the movie, if I remember rightly. But like it sets so much stuff beforehand. You find out about certain characters joining the gang, coming from other gangs. Yeah, oh yeah, I forgot. It's about how the Warriors were another gang, and they actually separated off from a different gang called the Destroyers. Yeah. It was actually pretty good. Now, but I was going to say the way they did try and like compact some of this stuff together, actually, I thought was pretty cool. Like, I liked the way they gave you exposition at the start of the movie. You know, a lot of the time it's kind of jarring to have a bunch of characters like turn to each other and go, "Oh, so what's this thing? Oh, this is Cyrus. He's the biggest gang leader in the city and blah, blah, blah." But they shoot it as a montage.
Yeah,
So
it's part of the montage of them traveling.
It's them
And the other
speaking
gang.
to each other at like different times in different locations. So yes, it is exposition, but it seems much more natural almost because it's not them having dialogue with each other directly.
Yeah.
It's them kind of filling each other in at natural times for them to be filled in. We're just seeing it condensed into a moment that makes it exposition for us. Which I was like, that's actually pretty cool. That's pretty clever. An interesting way of putting it. And it's not like one character just talks to somebody else like Cleon speaks to Swan like for 5 seconds or in every clip.
Yeah.
Everyone is just talking to everyone like they would be, like giving bits and bits, and they just pieces together to make an actual cohesive bit of exposition.
Yeah.
Which, I was like, that's good.
And importantly as well, because they do it within a montage, it's not boring.
Yeah.
This movie never slows down. Its pace is pretty constant. There are like maybe one or two sort of quiet moments, but for the most part, its pace is pretty relentless, which makes sense. It's a very short film, very short, but nothing's wasted either. You don't have that kind of that lull, and that's probably also a benefit of having such a simple premise, is that you can kind of you can shed a lot of that extra sort of weight of endless exposition. I've used this to describe other films before, but it's very functional.
Yeah. Like nothing gets wasted in the film, and everything takes you to the next point. I think there's only a few moments in my mind where I find myself going, "Why are they doing that?" Everything else is very clear. Like some of the times, like I think one time where I questioned why are they doing that is they were about to get into a fight with some rollerblading or roller skating gang members, and they all went into like the toilets. And I was like, whose idea was it to all go in the toilet? Like, why would they go that? But you know, they went into the toilet to find a better place to have a fight. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like why you'd make that strategic decision, like, hey guys, go into the bathroom, we're all going to go in the stalls, and then we're going to burst out and beat them up. Weird choice, but all right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. It's cool for a movie.
And how it's communicated using just a sort of nod from Swan is also a little bit confusing.
Yeah. Like, I thought it was going to be like, hey, you guys go stand over there, I'm going to go confront them. When they all come over to me, you come, back around and then beat them up from behind. But nope.
Yeah.
Like that's what I would have taken that nod as, but all right.
But it's fine.
Yeah.
The film is, a big part of the movie is combat, and the rollerblade fight sort of segues relatively well in. Is the fight scenes in this movie are fucking amazing. They're not at all realistic. It's real. It's movie fighting.
Yeah.
It is like, straight up movie fighting.
Ajax busts a dude with the Kirk double fist. Like
yeah. You get the double fist punch. You get or sort of double fist chop, I guess.
Yeah, where you grasp your hands like
yeah.
This is the ultimate technique to breaking my own fingers. Like ah.
You've got that. You've got just really kind of over kind of exaggerated movements when it comes to punches and kicks. It's very choreographed. You know what I mean? And it does.
Well, see, I don't feel it's overly choreographed. Like the odd thing is because it's the 70s. I know this means that it is kind of more choreographed, but there's way more like wide angles and long cuts, comparatively speaking to movies that you see now, where it's like change angle.
Yeah.
So the fights seem, in my opinion, more realistic than a lot of other fights.
I agree.
Even though they're obviously not.
Well, at the very least, when you don't have, because I know what you mean. the confusing nonsensical editing that is used in a lot of modern movies, and we're talking about movies that overall, in some cases, I think are good movies that are just unfortunately plagued by it. Like all the Marvel movies.
Yeah, all I can see in my head is not Wonder Woman, Black Cat, Jesus Christ, Black Widow. Like running up to somebody doing that jumping, spinning grapple thing where she throws them on the floor and
there's about 50 cuts.
Yeah, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, just have the stunt person do that in one take, please.
Yeah,
it'd be so good to see.
And the problem is that, and I think this is part of the reason it feels more realistic when it's done in long takes as well, is that you can actually see the progression of events. You can see how this punch landed on this person.
Yeah,
how this happened at this time, as opposed to the hyper frenetic editing. Usually in conjunction with shaky cam, where you're just like, something happened.
Yeah, it's a thing where if you think to yourself, hey, do you remember that last fight in not Civil War, the last Marvel movie, the one that was Endgame. Yeah, if you remember the last fight in Endgame, what actually happened in that fight? I remember Captain America picked up the hammer. And there was like the flag thing, and they tried to carry some. Like I remember like certain set pieces. I don't remember how any of them linked together. The progression of how like this caused this. Like, no, maybe if I rewatched the movie quite a lot, but
no, it's really chaotic. And actually, I'm pretty sure that some of them don't even actually stitch together. Like if you try and follow it, some of like continuity is all over the place.
Yeah, like, and I love Endgame, but it is one of those things where I'm like, this is a bit all over the place, guys.
Yeah. Also, I mean, obviously in the case of like Endgame, that end scene is basically an animated scene, but
yeah.
So it's kind of different in that sense anyway. But
that's why it's so awesome when man like Ricardo Miles shows up, fucking bodying everyone with his like red bandana and his little speedos doing his dance. Like it's so sick. I'm like, Ricardo Miles, he's got Thor's hammer and he's gonna fuck them all up. Oh, it just goes so well. It's perfect. And then Tobey Maguire like shows up with a Venom suit, like, see ya, chump. Yeah, so the fights in The Warrior are really great because I don't think you could fake in some CGI edits from other movies and it just works seamlessly.
No, they're completely cohesive. All the fights absolutely flow. And they're pretty good. I mean, like I say, it's very like old school, very movie. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of like destructible things that people can be thrown into and things like that.
Yeah. I miss those though. I really do. Like what was it? That guy who gets baseball batted and the baseball bat snaps as he hits him.
Yeah. That's or the guy getting thrown into the toilet cubicle door.
Yeah,
and it just shatters.
Yeah, like that. Those kind of things. It's weird. It really does add a sense of like weight, destructibility, like a lot more impact to like scenes and stuff.
Well, yeah, especially because it's something. Again, I don't want to come across like I'm anti CGI or something because I'm really not. But there really is something to be said for seeing something actually breaking under the weight of somebody.
Yeah.
Because
totally.
Really, I mean, yes, it's choreographed. Yes, it's not particularly hard wood or things like that. But at the same time, it is real. You are really seeing something.
Yeah, and in your brain, you're then able to like go. Your brain just does like the calculation. Well, I've touched a door before, and I know therefore the weight physically is like this much to that. Blah blah blah. Like
yeah.
I slight deviation, but like as I got older, stuff like when I was a kid, watching things like Dragon Ball Z. Seeing people get punched into rocks in mountains was fun, but it didn't really have much impact. Now, if I watch something else where a person is hit and then they like slam into a rock or something, I'm like, yeah, like rocks are really dense. That stuff hurts, and by that, I am now able to like retranslate that into my mind and go, oh yeah, actually, a lot of those times where people get punched into the ground. Yeah, I see why it does so much damage now.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It's like I always thought like it's why in say professional wrestling there's something to be said for like when someone will get hit with like the chair and then you see the chair bend.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, geez, like, and look, obviously, like, as an adult, I understand that it's just some really thin aluminium that's basically fucking tinfoil in terms of how, like, dense it is. You know, these things are not that hard. They're loud because they're made of metal.
Yeah.
So it's a big, loud impact. But they're not that hard.
But, like...
They do still hurt, though.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But, like, it's... You know, I know it's not a heavy chair or anything. But by the same token, though, it still adds a lot of impact.
Yeah, yeah, and, you know, part of the deception is, like, you know, like, again, any form of media, you are aware that it's a lie. So, and you're asking to be lied to. So, when you look at it and you see somebody get hit by the chair, yes, it's a prop chair that's, like, supposed to have more give in it. But, you know, your brain just says, imagine if that was not the prop chair and was just a real chair, and then it bent. How hard would that hit have to be?
Yeah.
So, you know, your brain can do the quick maths while you're on the block, smoke cheat. Anyway. Yeah, your brain can do the you know, quick maths in your brain, and you can just figure it out. What it would take to physically do those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely something I'd like to see more of. In modern stuff.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I was a bit disappointed by after Django Unchained, to be honest. How well Django Unchained looked using practical effects. I was like, this is definitely gonna cause a resurgence in practical effects, and it totally didn't.
No, it didn't.
It totally didn't.
And it's a shame because it's like, you know, you can see like a fucking Henry Cavill fucking smash someone through a wall, right? Smash a terrorist through a wall. But it doesn't have any weight to it because it looks like a CG wall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I know though that's not, nobody's really been pushed through a wall.
Yeah.
You know, how hard would it have been to have them both on wires and have it be drywall? You know, and it would have been better for it. To be honest though, that the way that fucking film's edited in post, you wouldn't even know if it was CG or not because everything looks like it's CG in those movies. It's that weird Star Wars prequel effect where it's like, oh wait, Chewbacca was a practical effect, but it looked like CG.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, if you add that much smoothing, there's no point in doing it for real anyway, right? Just at that point, it might as well just be CG.
You're just trying to make it cohesive, right? But no, coming back to the Warriors, I think there are quite a few really, really interesting shots and ideas that exist in this movie. One of the things I really love, I love the DJ. All of her scenes are phenomenal.
It's so iconic. That shot, like the sort of semi-profile shot of her mouth next to the microphone.
It with just this, it's so weird because the lighting is so atmospheric. It's like this weird, really warm, like kind of red. She's got lipstick, but like part of her face is cast in shadow. You never see her eyes, or you just see like her nose and mouth.
Yeah, it's really tight.
Like,
it's
really
tight.
It's just perfectly tiny frame, and it kind of makes perfect sense because, you know, it's on the radio. You don't know who that person is, but you can hear them, and you can hear from the voice that it's a woman, so you can get some semblance of a thing. So for me, it's a really nice visual representation almost of hearing a radio DJ. Rather than just having it play, you know, audibly in the background or something. It's almost a visual representation of listening to the radio. I love it. I think it's amazing.
Oh, yeah. And one detail, I pointed this out while we were watching, but one detail I really like about that as well is that it's such a tiny thing, but they really used the audio from the mic she's speaking into rather than using a boom mic, which means you get that warmer sound that you get from a radio mic, or from a vocal mic, and that really adds something to it. It doesn't sound like anything else in the movie.
Yeah, it's just like it's got this warmth to it. Like your ears feel like there's like a cushioning going in there. You're like, oh man, like Yeah, look, I don't know who they got to do that scene, but I'm like, Jesus, can she like be a real DJ, please?
Maybe she was.
Like, yeah, know, maybe. Like, get her involved in the ASMR stuff.
Yeah, yeah, right. I really like a lot of the kind of more theatrically or sort of purposefully shot moments. There's a few. There's a couple of moments where the Riffs, who are kind of the main gang, when they're meeting, and the head of the Riffs is getting information, and the first time he stood like looking basically directly at the camera. And then the guy giving him the information kind of comes in from the side. He's directly at a right angle.
It's such an odd decision for how they would frame it, how they'd shoot it. Like it's like hyper stylized. Like it almost feels like if you've made changes to your movie, you need to make some new shoot. Like I need to like get some new shots in. I've only got like one guy.
It's entirely possible,
but like they're like, how are we gonna fix this? And the guy was like, "Fucking art from adversity, baby. Like, let's be creative as hell."
Yeah, because I mean, the shot honestly wouldn't feel out of place in like a Tarantino movie or something. It's got that sort of, like I say, that hyper stylized thing, and then they do the same sort of shot again later, except they change it up, and it's not the guy just in profile this time. It's his shadow.
Yeah, it's literally his shadow. Like it's like a cast shadow, like speaking. But they've sized the shadow to the point where it's of like adequate size. Like
yeah.
Like at first I thought, oh wow, he's just backlit as hell. Like, I was like, wait, no, like the light's coming. Oh, that's his shadow. Wow, they've really like had to like space him out and be like, right, this gets your head the right size, that puts it in the frame, blah blah blah. All right.
Yeah. It's really well done. And there aren't many shots like that, but when they do come up, they really they really hit. I mean, like I say, those two shots in particular are two of my favorite shots in the movie, and I've loved that. I think they were probably like some of the first sort of filmmaky sort of things I noticed as a kid. Because when you're a kid, you don't really think of films in those terms. You just enjoy it. But that was the first time it was like, I like that shot. And stuff like that always sticks really in my memory. Like the first shots that I like, the first pieces of editing that I noticed, and that was definitely up there with like some of the first shots I ever really acknowledged as shots. So yeah, I really, really like those. So shall we move into the political half of the, of the podcast?
Oh, yeah.
So low-key, there's a very easy left-wing reading that you can have of this movie.
Yeah, like...
and that's that Cyrus is Mikhail Bakunin. He is uniting the lumpen proletariat, and he's saying, no, it's all our turf.
Yep. He's like, we can be the biggest gang in the city, and then they'll have to come to us to make decisions. Like, we can spread it out between all of us. I was like,
Lumpen revolution. Like it right there. And it is thwarted by this one member of the Rogues, who speaks to somebody on a phone. Yep. We don't ever find out who.
Nope. To let him know that he's done his job.
Yeah.
And
he seems oddly excited at the prospect of cops being around. Even though, like, they're looking for all of us. So why are you excited? Well, I'm just happy.
Yep.
And mysteriously, the cops are already surrounding the meeting, but don't do anything until the gunshot goes off. Like they were waiting for it. And as you pointed out, I never noticed this. In the final scene, he's not wearing his gang vest, and underneath, he has what looks like a deputy's badge.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's been it's pretty easy to read in that he has been hired by the police to thwart this uprising.
Yep.
I.e., he is the tool of the bourgeoisie.
Yep.
To thwart a revolutionary attempt.
He's a goddamn class traitor.
He is a fucking class traitor through and through. To the point that he seems even willing to sell out his own gang.
Mm-hmm. Because the rest of the gang, they're like, yeah, so like, what is this? Like, why'd you do? Why are you happy? Like, oh, no reason. No, it's fine. And it's like, he's probably gonna get like a big payday for this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's sold out. Like, he's like, yeah, everyone could have been like happy, but I'll take the payday, and then I can be happy.
Yeah.
Like that. I was like, yeah, I think he tried to trick us. He was like, the director. He was like, oh yeah, you know, it's about Odysseus coming back. See, he was burying the true secret message because he was like, I know what the CIA is like.
You know what's really ironic? You know who was a noted fan of this movie?
The CIA?
Ronald Reagan.
Wow.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan actually really liked the movie. He watched it in Camp David, and...
Well, you know why? Ronald Reagan was like, look at those filthy paws. Like, fighting for the scrap.
But I do like this reading because that does add a massive amount of irony to that, to a film. And I don't want to say a favourite of Ronald Reagan's. I think that's probably going too far. His favourite is probably something he was in. But,
yeah,
you know, it was a film he liked.
I would say this reading does also, in my mind, make one other scene fit a little better as well. The scene where they're on the train. So, in part of the story, Swan and the rest of the warriors, they meet another gang called the Orphans, and with the Orphans is a woman named Mercy, who could be a prostitute, but we don't know. It's not really made completely clear. It's a bit ambiguous, but maybe. She ends up tagging along with the warriors for a while and kind of becomes Swan's girlfriend. And there's just a scene where Swan and Mercy are sat on the train, and then they come to a stop, and then 4 people get on the train who clearly come from prom.
Yeah, it looks like that. Yeah, they've just come back from prom. This is one of my favourite scenes in the whole movie, by the way. There's no dialogue.
Yeah.
I mean, the people coming from prom are chatting, but the music, the mix means that you can't really hear what they're saying or anything like that. It's not important. They come and sit down, basically, and there's just this kind of, as the kids on prom start to notice Swan and Mercy, they go quiet. Yeah, and they just sit in silence.
And it's amazing because there's an awkwardness because they don't even notice that they're getting onto a train with like some gangsters. Gang members. Gangsters make it sound like they're the mafia. They're getting in on this train with some gang members. They're completely oblivious to what's going on. Almost like, you know, once you get to a certain situation in society, you try to make yourself oblivious to what's happening in the outside world.
And there's this great shot where it just follows the eyes of one of the guys who's been on prom, and he looks down at Mercy and like looks at her feet, which are just like filthy and
like what was it? Her hair's a mess.
Like she's dirty all over.
Yeah, really. Like she's got looks. Her legs look like they've potentially got bruises. Like her feet are dirty because the toes are exposed. Women's shoes. Don't worry, Emma will get that.
And she, and there's this one moment where she goes to kind of, I guess, do what she's always done, which is to try and flirt. She just goes
I don't think she was trying to flirt. I think she was feeling self-conscious.
Well, yeah, I take that as well.
It was an attempt to try and like fix herself because she felt shame for her station.
I would probably argue it was probably both, but yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I absolutely though. She goes to kind of touch her hair basically,
Mm-mm.
and as she goes to do it, Swan just grabs her wrist, puts it back down by her side, and they just continue the awkward silence until the guys from prom, clearly not at their normal stop, because there's this kind of we'll get off here
Yeah.
moment where it's like they rush off all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like,
don't want to spend too much time with the lower classes.
Yeah, it's like, and it's just purely like they're not comfortable. It's the same thing as like you get it sometimes. I'm sure
it's
plenty of you will have seen it. Some people listening might have even done it. Where you encounter like a homeless person or something, and you do that. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with this.
I was going to reference back to the last movie we watched. Or was it the last? Parasite.
Not the last one, but no.
Yeah. I was going to reference back to Parasite and say, yeah, it's kind of like when, Mr. Park, he just lives in a different world and he ignores like everyone else that he sees. Like, they even live isolated up in the hills. And when things go crazy, what does he do? He's like, I'm just going to try and leave. Like, he's like, I'm going to hold my nose and try and just leave. And yeah, that's kind of how I saw that. It's like these people, they just live in separate worlds.
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, I think it's not even a domain of like upper or even middle class people necessarily, because there's a lot of people, even people who are working class, who have someone who's probably lower than them in social standing, especially like homeless people, people who have drug problems, people and it's that don't want to deal with it thing. I'm not saying I've never done anything like that. I probably have, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, it sells it really well in terms of, because we're not looking at it from the perspective of the people from the prom. We're looking at it from the perspective of Swan and Mercy.
Yeah.
And it's the one moment that I think gives the most context for Mercy as a character and why she's gone along with them, why she's so sort of transient. In at first she's with the orphans and then she goes off with the warriors, like out of nowhere.
Yeah, even though they are literally being chased to be killed. Like wherever she was, it was such a trash experience that you're like, yeah, it's fine. It was better for me to risk my life with these guys. Which
actually makes sense because again, there is that from different worlds thing. The orphans are below even the warriors in terms of their sort of social standing. They weren't invited to the big meeting of the gangs because they weren't on anyone's radar. Where everyone else has some sort of fancy gimmick costume, they wear grey shirts, grey t-shirts, that are all like dirty and full of holes. And
hell, like their gang is so green that a Molotov cocktail being thrown at a car, like not even really next to them, they're like, fuck, we don't want to fuck with these guys anymore.
Yeah. There's even that line, it's like, oh, the orphans, yeah, my youth worker talks about you all the time. We ain't got one. Which, again, it's like that, yeah, no, these guys are like a real small fry. These are...
But ironically, no, it's I guess it's not really fair because they went as 9 delegates. But I was going to say, ironically, it seems as though their gang is actually quite large. There's quite a lot of people in there.
Yeah, but like we don't know how big like the warriors are.
Yeah, we don't really
like
get a full scope of their size. So yeah, it's not really fair.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing because this is a thing based around gangs. But apart from the riffs, we only ever see a small group of these of these gang members of each gang. I guess we see possibly quite a few Turnbull ACs in the bus, but that's one quick moment in a bus.
And I guess we see the Lizzies as well.
Yeah. Although we don't know how big their numbers are, really.
Yeah.
You know, they're at apartments, so it's like...
Yeah. It's clearly not the full layer of people.
Yeah. Which it's an interesting restriction to add as from a writing perspective. And also probably is what kept production costs down, because they didn't have to have, like, you know, huge numbers of people all charging at each other or anything like that. It's like, no, it's small groups. Which also is what makes the Warriors seem so overwhelmed as well, because...
Yeah. I like the fact that there's rarely gunfire in the film. Like, if you know me, I'm like, I don't really like guns. They're not that good. Why use a gun when you could punch someone? Or, you know, at the bare minimum, hit them with something. Like, I'd much rather watch that.
Hit them with the gun.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, come on, we've all played Halo. Master Chief's gun butt with the pistol is amazing. But yeah, like I think that's more interesting in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of, like, I don't know, having that restriction there, because it's like, also the cool thing with having only 9 is that means, well, it gives a sort of reason for the themes of the gangs, because it's like, well, they're just going to run into this, you know, 9 members of this gang. They're probably going to get out of it, because, you know, or at least most of them will get out of it, because it's only a small group of people, right? So they can have these kind of set pieces with each individual gang, but they're not going to be so overwhelmed by that one gang that there's not new and interesting ones that they can face.
It becomes like a war of attrition, like where the fights are manageable but difficult, rather than like crushingly overwhelming, like at the very start where, you know, Cleon is just completely overwhelmed by literally everyone who's at the gang meeting. Sorry, I did want to go back to Swan and Mercy really quickly, unless you have anything you want to say about it. I don't really buy a relationship between those two, though.
Oh no.
It's he doesn't ever seem really enamored by her. He more is just like, yeah, I guess, and I can have sex with you later, I guess, if you're just gonna hang out. She seems to also have like a bit of an interest or more of a want to just have sex with a guy, which, yeah, I guess sometimes you want to have sex with somebody, but
Swan seems like, for her, just a way to get out of a potential way to get out of the situation she's in, rather than anything to do with him as a person. It's just like he represents an ability to leave the orphans at first, and then potentially at the end an opportunity to leave New York altogether. Yeah,
because she talks about potentially leaving with it. She's like, I like traveling. He's like, you ain't never traveled before. Like, I think I'd like it, because I did like that line at the end there where he's like, we fought all night to get back to this, and it's just like broken down Coney Island, which I think that's a cool little like statement there, because he's like, yeah, shit, like, you know, their life, just because they're back, their life still carries on and it's still trash. Like,
it also sells the loss at the beginning when Cyrus was shot, because it's gone from this is all our turf to no, it's just Coney again. You know, that potential that was there at the beginning is gone.
No, totally. But yeah, no, I found it a weird pick in my mind to go with, like, Mercy and like, yeah, like I see it, I get it. Like, part of me, like, I was thinking, like, it almost seems like when she's like, she begs, oh god, she begs Swan to have sex with her on the train tracks of the live, like, trains that are going by. It's just weird.
While they're on the run from the police.
Yeah, while on the run from the police and every other gang as well. Like, she's like, just have sex with me, do it, like, it'll be fine.
Yeah, that is a really...
That, to me, seemed a little bit like it wasn't even a chance to leave, it was almost like a request for like self-validation of like, hey, I was with the orphans, but I was able to sleep with this minorly known gang.
Yeah, it's
Like,
just kind of fucking up the ranks thing. Like, yeah, that
yeah.
yeah, that is kind of how it feels. It's probably the weakest element of the film is the actual relationship between the two of them. And it almost feels like the only reason there is a relationship between the two of them is that that's what you're supposed to do in a movie.
Yeah, it's a case they're not gays.
Yeah, it's like he's the main character. He's got to
Yeah.
have like the
Well,
love interest.
they-
All the other guys go off with the Lizzies, or like Ajax get the undercover cop. Like
that I think that could be a thing, because like I was thinking about how most of the women are shown in this movie, and it is really, really evident that what was it? Well, it's old video game RPG like guy logic. Hey, wait, is that woman being friendly to me? It's a trap.
Yeah.
Like every time, I should have gone with a Akbar reference there, but damn it. Yeah, it's just a trap every time. Like, woman B's nice to you. Nah, she's using you.
It has to be said, the as great as this movie is, it was made in the 70s.
Oh yeah.
It was made in the 70s, and as a result, sexual politics aren't amazing. By the same token, though, as I said earlier, by the standards of other movies made at that point in time, to be honest, I'm just generally grateful in these movies when nobody actually gets raped.
Yeah.
Like, it's a real problem. As somebody who's a bit of a fan of films of this era, especially the more exploitation-y ones, it's an unfortunate problem that these movies tend to have.
It could have been very easy for them while fighting the Lizzies to grab a girl's top and just pull it down.
Yeah.
But at no point does something like that happen.
No, it's in fact there's actually no nudity in the whole movie.
The closest you get is Mercy. I think her top is
top's kind of
slightly see-through-ish.
But that's not done in a way that seems like it's supposed to be titillating anyway.
Yeah,
to sell the kind of poverty, really.
Yeah, I think it works differently. I think this was a thing I wanted to bring up. Would be, were this movie made in 2020, what would it be like? And I'm like, yeah, Mercy would be cast by to be played by a Megan Fox, or like someone extremely conventionally attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was saying to you in the movie, it's really weird. Not that I don't think this actress is attractive, but she looks a little bit like or an older Mila Kunis. She slightly off, because Mila Kunis has a very natural, I'm a real person kind of look to her, and that's exactly how this girl looks, except she's poor.
Yeah, and because they do everything they can to make her look kind of unattractive.
Yeah, she's
like I say, her hair's all matted, she's dishevelled, she's dirty, her skin's dirty. You know what I mean? It's
half the time I found myself looking. I'm like, every time I'm looking at her top lip, going, "Is that a mustache?"
Yeah.
I think it's just lying. But so many times I'm like, "Wait, is there a mustache?"
That's actually really great, because it's it's cares more about the reality of the situation she's in than it does about just eye candy.
Yeah, but again, I prefer her body type is just a woman.
Yeah.
She doesn't have the stereotyped, oh yeah, this is what the boobs look like when they're in the perfect bra with perfect weight balance thing. I'm just a person, and I'm just wearing this braless top, whatever, small breasts.
Yeah.
Somebody who I don't think she would be cast.
No.
If it was today, and she went in for the role, I don't think they would cast her.
No, I think you're right. I actually do think you're right. It's one of those weird things, really, isn't it? Because for the most part, I feel like a character like that would have been written differently now.
Yeah, yeah.
And probably in many ways would be more progressive in how they go about it.
Yeah.
Apart from the casting.
Mm-hmm. Like, they'd be like, oh, well, like, at worst, they'll be like, what's Emma Watson doing? Like, maybe we can get her. Like...
Well, obviously, that's the other thing as well, that even quote-unquote independent movies, you know, films that are effectively made independently but have major distribution now, they bank themselves on stars.
Yeah.
This movie had no stars in it.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I don't know what a lot of the people did after this. I don't think a lot of them did anything.
The head of the Rogues, he's the villain in The Crow.
Oh.
Not the main villain, the sort of secondary villain in The Crow.
Okay.
The guy who actually like burns down Brandon Lee's like.
Because I don't know, but I don't think the woman who played Mercy, did she ever do anything else?
Not that I know
she
of.
did.
I mean, it's possible she was in something, but I don't.
Like, I don't think it's anything big. Like, and these people, I think, were all fine actors. Like, they all did really well.
But as far as I know, none of them really went on to do anything, and they certainly weren't stars beforehand. You know, these weren't names. Yeah. Whereas now it'd be like, well, you need at least one for the cover. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you've got even like independent, like straight to DVD trash that will fraudulently, you know, have like, I don't know,
squeeze in Bruce Willis in a movie, and then what happens? Bruce Willis is like, yeah, we have to defend Bruce Willis. Just go into this room, and we're gonna close the door behind you, and that'll be you for the rest of the movie. Yeah, like I've seen that happen.
Yeah. They'll get Bruce Willis, or if they can't afford Bruce Willis, they'll get Steven Seagal or Eric Roberts, because he'll do literally
Sylvester Stallone. I've seen in like big movie trash.
Or if they can't afford Sylvester Stallone, they'll get Frank Stallone and just write Frank really, really small so people think it's a Sylvester Stallone. There are so many movies that do that.
Going back to the Bruce Lee for marketing, huh? Like...
Yeah. Honest to God, there are so many movies where you see Stallone. It just says Stallone, and then you look at the back, it's like, oh, Frank Stallone. Okay. It's a Frank Stallone movie.
Yeah, man. Trick you any way they can.
No, you're absolutely right though. With her in particular, she'd be a star if they could get a star, and if she wasn't a star, she'd probably be a semi-known. Like if it was like a film of the same scale done today, she'd be somebody who was like someone who maybe had like a TV career, you know what I mean? But was still like stereotypically kind of. When I say stereotypically attractive, I mean that in the sense of how everyone has to look the same on TV.
Yeah,
to the point
like
that
a Sophie Turner. What's that girl's name? She's in Game of Thrones. She's the sister, not Arya Stark, the other one. She played Jean Grey in like the newest.
Yeah. I know who you mean. I'm bad with names, but yes, I know what you mean.
Like, I'm impressed that I remembered her real life name.
Yeah, I don't think I ever knew that. But like,
apparently she's from Northampton, you know. Really?
Mm-hmm. Huh, I should know that then. I tend to pride myself on knowing when people from this town do well.
Yeah.
It's always it's a, you know, town pride thing. But yeah, anyway. I feel like it would have been someone like that. Someone who's sort of at least semi-known, is very easy on the eye. And you know, and that's just because that's just how it goes. Like I say, they try and at least get one sort of well-known person in there. Yeah. It's an unfortunate thing. I think it's probably because there's a lot more competition now. It's a lot harder to get your movie actually seen. Yeah. You know, let's be real. A film of this scale, if it was made now, would not have a theatrical release. If The Warriors on comparative budget was made now, it would absolutely be a straight to DVD or straight to streaming services movie.
Oh yeah, 100%. I could see it now. It would be horrible. Like a lot of the lighting in this film, I think for me, I think that's probably one of the things that makes the film look so good.
Oh yeah.
Like because they're running around the streets. I don't know. Like you were saying it as well. Are these just like the street lights, or
I feel like they might
specific
have
lights? Like,
because I remember hearing that in Escape from New York, all the outdoor lighting is all just actual New York streetlights.
Wow.
And the look is very similar to Escape from New York.
Right.
So I think that's just kind of, obviously streetlights would have been a lot harsher.
Yeah, because but I was going to say, like the streetlights do look really harsh. Like, what are they like? Maybe old mercury lamps or something. Like, I remember there was a time when the lights they were using, they were like, these actually hurt your eyes if they're not done properly. So, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, the ones that break HD cameras if you point them at them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
That's the thing. So I think those are real lighting, but then there's a lot of, the interior lighting is also really, really good. Like I say, especially when it gets really stylized, like you mentioned the radio station, that's all really great. It's that kind of warm, soft red.
Yeah. I wonder what gels they had.
Yeah, and it's you don't really get that. Like, to be honest, now I swear to God, a lot of the time they don't even bother using gels anymore. It's usually just all done in post anyway.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, it's just massive. Like, we can color grade this.
Yeah. And the thing is, you can always tell. You can always tell when it's been done in post.
Mm-hmm.
And lighting's a bit of a lost art, I feel like. Not really, but like, within smaller scale films, like, it's...
People have got down even TV lighting really well. In a lot of major productions, you'll see, like, really nice, even... That's well lit. Like, yeah, I can see the subject really nice.
I think a big part of it is that a lot of movies now are shot on green screen. And when you shoot on green screen, you need even lighting. Yeah. So it has to all be done in post.
Yeah, how hard is it to try and get dynamic lighting when you're on, like, a green screen and you're like, yeah, we're gonna like shoot this in like with all these like shadows and everything cast on like the people and like, because like when they're running on the streets, I love the fact that they run from, hey, they're under the street light, it's really harsh, and then they run outwards and it goes into like a really dark setting. It's like, this is nice. Again, you don't see this type of lighting.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been of the opinion that I don't really care if the light sources make sense, but at the same time, it is utilized in a really cool way in this, because it does like it gives the city a lot of character, and in a film that's based entirely around them getting from one point to another, given the city character really helps.
And for me, it feels, again, like they're on the run. Like, they go somewhere and they're like, hey, yeah, let's just like stay out of sight for a bit. And the area that they're in, it's really quite dark compared to where they're like really harshly lit. So like when they're on the platforms, the train platforms, the lighting, it's like such this harsh white light. That's what they would have on a train platform. And then you're out and about in the park. It's dark. But like in the park, I'm certain there's some lighting going on because they want to be able to show you like some natural lighting. But it works. Like you'd be in the dark because it's darker around that area. Your eyes will have adjusted. Yeah, it's fine.
I guess that's another side of it though. It's just location filmmaking, man. Like. Again, I know it's a lot more difficult, especially for independent films, because, look, it's so hard to get permits. Like, permits have gotten more and more expensive, especially in major cities. And while in a lot of ways it's gotten easier to shoot without permits, because we have very small cameras now, we have, you can shoot guerrilla style. But let's be real, mid-scale productions can't get away with that.
Yeah.
Like guys on our size, we can totally get away with that. We can go filming and we just bring a fucking little GoPro or something.
Someone's like, why are you and a couple of your mates all there? Like, mate, it's a birthday movie.
It's a straightforward. Oh, we're shooting a YouTube video or something. It's just whatever. Like nobody would even, to be honest, nobody would probably even question it at our scale. But when you've got like, a full team. You've got like,
a guy with lights getting set up.
Guy with a fucking like a boom mic, and you've got everything all set up.
Dude's got the clapboard.
Yeah. You've got catering trucks around the corner. Like you can't really.
Yeah, you're like, I probably need to get a permit.
So I get that it's very tricky, and it adds a lot of unnecessary cost to a production to where it's like, no, we have to fake it. And that's why, you know, most movies, mid-scale movies, are now shot in Eastern Europe, where it's very cheap to shoot there. They get tax breaks and they don't have to like pay for permits to shoot in a lot of places. So it's just like, hey, yeah, we're gonna shoot in Eastern Europe, and most of the movie is going to take place in a warehouse.
Sorry, I'm thinking back to that Bruce Willis movie where they are in one location. They go, well, where are we going to like do the rest of the movie? Let's go to this warehouse.
Yeah.
And that's literally
Yeah. Well, it's very, look, you can rent a warehouse for the day for really low cost. Like,
guy's like, yeah, it's just an abandoned building. I want to use it. Like, get some money from it. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not going to say I don't understand why it's done. I totally do. And I'm not going to knock any filmmakers for going that route, because you kind of have to sometimes. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the day, this is a business.
Yeah.
You have to make a profit on this. You have to keep your films under a certain cost, just realistically.
Yeah. If you even just want to get them made.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean I don't lament the fact that you can't do this crazy on location like shooting where, you know, you're in these kind of public parks, you're in public streets, and you're shooting fight scenes. You're shooting in clearly real subway stations. Most of this film is shot on location, and it's great for it, because New York really did look like that in the 70s. You know what I mean? Where it's
I like to just pretend that bathroom fight, it wasn't a set. They went in there and they just had them like smash the mirrors. One dude like got kicked into the door so hard he broke and shattered the whole thing. And they're like, right, let's run. We just got up and left. And like,
God, imagine if you actually slammed through a real bathroom door. Like,
yeah, the guy's like, oh Jesus, you hit me pretty hard. Like, sorry, mate. Like, you look good on camera, like, like it was a happy accident.
Oh man.
But no. Do you have final thoughts or takeaways for the movie?
Watch The Warriors if you haven't already, because it's a very, very good movie. It's, as I said, between this and Roadhouse, they're a joint top for my favorite movie ever. Both of them are one above RoboCop.
Whoa!
So I'm very. I really love this movie. I absolutely love it. And I never get bored of it. I've seen it a million times, and it's every single time is like the first time I watched it. And I don't know. I've yet to meet anyone who's watched it and hasn't like at least enjoyed it a bit. So
Yeah.
So just watch it. Just have some fun. And I'm sure those of you listening to this, I don't know how many of you have actually seen it. Anwar, I know you have. Just watch it again. Fuck it.
Yeah, it's just one of those movies. It's always fun to come back to. Enjoyable, like fun characters. The dream for what gangs could have been like. I'm disappointed with everyone. And well, I think for me the ultimate lesson and takeaway from the whole thing is in the point when a charismatic leader gets together and he goes, guys, look, we can own like all of this. Like we can own these businesses. You can be paid a fair share if we just rise up together. Look, you're going to get a call at some point. And they're like, hey, do you want to kill that guy and get loads of money for your own personal benefit? Just say no. Come on, be cool. Like, everyone could have more, not just you. Can you dig it? Yeah, that's my takeaway.
Ian Beale.
Ian Beale.
Well, well, well. Do my eyes believe me, or have Max and Levi done another video? I'm here to ensure that we uphold Brannigan's Law. That's right, I'm gonna send wave after wave of my own men to like, comment, and subscribe until they reach their limit and shut down. I rest my case. Ian Beale.